Well, welcome everybody to this workshop session. My name is Peter Lusted and I'm very excited about the information we're going to share with you today. But before we get started, I'd like to do some housekeeping tasks. For people that are online right now, can you please just type into the chat box and let me know that you can hear me. The chat box icon is on the right hand side of the telephone icon at the center of your screen. Yep, loud and clear, I can hear you. Okay, thanks very much. Well, welcome again and a special welcome to our Retail Mastery and TikTok members. I can see that there are quite a few online right now. Well, this is our second session and it appears that we've got more people on this session than the original one, so that's fantastic. Also, as I've mentioned, we have a lot of great information for you, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of value out of this session. So in order to get the most value possible, what I'd ask you to do is grab a pen and paper so that you can make notes through the session, and also shut down any other distractions like emails or shut your office door. Try and isolate yourself for the next 60 minutes plus. Now this session may go over time, but try and isolate yourself so that you get the most value that you possibly can from the information we're providing. Now what we are doing, we are recording this session so you can watch a replay. We should have that replay posted within 24 hours. We'll notify everybody once that session has been posted. Now you may be asking why we're running a session on holiday training strategies just prior to Christmas. Well, there are a couple of reasons. Firstly, only a few weeks ago in our Mastery Members group, one of our members asked us about how best to approach the clearance of the amount of stock that they had in the pharmacy. Now this particular Mastery member suffers from what most of the industry suffers from, and that being too much stock within the given amount of space of the pharmacy. And that has lots of impacts that I'm sure Hilary will cover off in her session. Anyway, this particular person asked us how best to clear that stock, and what we mentioned to them was this is the best time. During the Christmas trading period and beyond is the best time to clear that stock. However, it's not going to happen on its own. You have to be deliberate and confident about the action you're taking to ensure that you can clear that stock and open up the space for the pharmacy to give you the best chance of creating a robust offer into the 2015 year. So getting back to why we started this late, it was really as a result of that question. The other motivation for having this session and some of the things that we're about to show you within the session was as a result of another question from a Mastery member: how do I create this information around my merchandise? How do I create this information-rich health pharmacy, particularly around the middle health areas of my pharmacy? Now, that prompted Hilary and I to start working on material as a resource for pharmacies that want to go down this direction. If anybody knows Hilary, one of her signature approaches, her disciplines that she drives so hard in pharmacy, is to ensure the pharmacy is set up in the best possible way so that customers can navigate through the categories and find everything they need and want. And the only way of doing that in any certainty is what Hilary coins as making the store talk. The store needs to actually help in that process, and in particular in those peak trading periods where staff may not be able to have the time to really engage customers in a timely manner. So what we're about to show you can be effectively used tomorrow, pre-Christmas and post-Christmas and beyond into 2015, 2016 and so on. It doesn't have a use by date. So today we have two presenters. One is Hilary Khan, and for most of the people on this webinar would have heard of Hilary before, and I would say probably most of you have dealt with her in one fashion or another. Hilary has been a thought leader and a major influencer in pharmacy for the last 35 years. All the commentary that exists now, what pharmacy needs to do, Hilary was talking some 10, 15 years ago. It's only now that the industry is actually caught up to what Hilary's been advocating for all this time. So in my view, there is nobody more qualified in the industry to be speaking with you and guiding you through the things that need to happen to ensure that you can maximize performance from your retail space. The other speaker is Norman Turak. Norman couldn't make it here today. We were not able to coordinate our schedules. We had mixed things up a little bit, but we have a recording of his presentation which we'll play as part of this webinar. But without further delay, I'll pass you over to Hilary, and hopefully you'll get inspired and excited with what she's about to show you.
Thanks very much, Pete, for the introduction, and thank you all for coming again. We had a workshop a couple of days ago and we had a big turnout, but we've been deluged a little by people, so we're doing this again. There are basically three big areas that I want to talk about, and of course you'll also be able to hear Norman discuss the issues to do with stock. The three areas that I want to talk about are firstly the huge opportunity that you have for selling health. You know, in retail there is no better time than the busiest time. The problem with most retailers, and I think often pharmacies in particular, but not only, and I will demonstrate, is that they do their best when the customers are not there, when there's no one to show off to, when there's no one to sell to really in terms of numbers, but not when people are there. So before this holiday season and before any critical date, whether it's New Year, Easter, Thanksgiving, whatever the day is, it's very important to ramp up all your effort. And what we're going to do is to focus on a process of ramping up from the dispensary, which is where all the action really happens. And I'll give you some evidence of that. The second big issue that I want to talk about and have discussed before in another venue is how to suck the blood out of your promotions. This is the time when your brands and independent owners spend all their money running promotions, advertising, trying to drive traffic into the store. And unfortunately, it's the time when we don't get as much out of it as we should in terms of sales, in terms of goodwill, in terms of additional customers, in terms of loyalty. Often what we do get is a fair bit of stock that doesn't move, and that's inevitable with any retailer. It's not a function of pharmacy, it's inevitable. And in fact, people like Myer and David Jones will actually stock up for these sale periods. They'll buy in particular, and they are beginning, and they know that they're not selling. So the fact that you're seeing sales earlier and earlier each year, before Christmas, for example, is indication that they've got to move stock. So not only have they got to move the stock, but they've got to prepare themselves for the next year. And I'm going to be talking about 5 key steps to do that. And they are around really clearing what you're not selling and ensuring that your store is set up in a way that enables customers to buy easily. So let's start with some facts and some background. For many years now, I have said within the pharmacy industry that there is sorry about that. For many years now, I have said within the pharmacy industry that there's been a 30% decline in effectiveness in busiest times. I got that from Myer, where, and many of you have heard me say this, that the average sales, say between opening bell and 12 o'clock at the city store where I worked was about $200 or $300. Again, it was about $200 or $300 between 2 and close of play. But for the day, it was only $21.30. Now, the interesting point about that, and again, you've heard me mention this many times, is that that particular store had 720,000 transactions per week, of which 580,000 came between 12 and 2. So what actually happened for the average sale to go from hundreds of dollars and even out to $21? We will talk about that shortly. For many years as well, pharmacies were saying, well, that's not the case in our business. We've got an increase in sales and there's no real decrease in average sale. But I hadn't really examined it really closely until the last couple of years, when I began to look at the trending of these sales and the average sale. And what I found was a flatness, and I'm sure some of you have seen that flatness. So the average sale doesn't really change, it doesn't go up, it doesn't really go down. But I have come across a number of stores. The one I'm about to show you is a shopping centre pharmacy, and I've also come across strip pharmacies as well as country pharmacies where we have this same initiative. Typically Christmas, and by the way, why you're not seeing a green stripe in this is because it's November in Australia in 2014, so Christmas hasn't happened yet. So that's why there's no green stripe. But you can see the customer numbers have actually increased. And typically that is the case. They'll certainly increase in the dispensary because of the requirement for prescriptions to be done. But in country pharmacies, you will see an increase in customer numbers over Christmas, still because, and especially in towns that don't have the big stores, which are first choice options for gifts. But in city stores, that's been levelling off, and Christmas has become less and less relevant. In this case, which is a big city, we can see the increase in dispensary sales. And by the way, I chose only 3 months because I wanted to get a snapshot of what was being done in the pharmacy. I chose February because I wanted to see if New Year's resolutions were being sold. You can see in this pharmacy there's been over the 3 years a flattening in dispensary sales, and you could argue why, because of competition, etc. In June I was interested because that is the time for the prescriptions in colds and flu and allergies and arthritis. So it's really a peak dispensing month, any month between May and probably August. And in December we're still getting an increase, or we did last year. Again, we got an increase in dispensary sales. So theoretically, if you would say that whether it was the store itself or the brand to which they belonged, they had certainly generated a lot of customers. There's no question about that. But how much did they buy? And this brand certainly does a lot of work in advertising, certainly has BDMs that go around. But what actually happened? Well, let's have a look. In this particular store, we had this huge drop in retail sales. I do have some theories about why that happened, and none of them have to do with the brand, I don't think. The fact that the advertising is not relevant, or I don't think that's the real issue. I think the issue lies in the store, and just as bad is the fact that the retail average sale went down. Now, none of that should have happened. The retail sales should have been up, and the average sale should have been up, because we're selling gifts, we're selling bundles of cosmetics, we're selling fragrances. So theoretically, we should have had a significant lift, not a significant decline. So why is that? and these are my theories. I think what happened, or I know what happened at Myer, was that Myer had spent something in the order of $6 million on training its people how to sell. That was a lot of money 20 years ago. And they were selling, they were using all their steps and their processes for engaging customers when they weren't busy. But when it became frantic, they forgot all of that because the process they had learnt took longer than the period available at peak period. So maybe it took 20 minutes to complete the process, but in fact they had 5. So what happened was they stopped selling and they went into a transaction mode or an order taking mode, trying to or a processing mode. Let's see how fast we can get these customers through, because what nobody wants to see is being held up because we're chatting to someone else. So that is one, I think, absolutely important cause. And because of that, I have spent a lot of time in the TikTok program and for many, many years trying to find a sales process that allows completion within minutes. And to do that, it changes the whole process. I won't talk about that here, but you have to have a peak period strategy or you have no strategy. And the store is unproductive. What does that really mean? It means that customers aren't buying. Why is that? Why is that? And I think there are a couple of reasons. I've discussed the transaction mode instead of the sales mode. But what happens when we're frantic as well is that the customer doesn't see the skills, because the skills are typically behind counters, not on the sales floor, and exactly the opposite needs to occur. We need to be sure that the pharmacist is on the floor. We need to be sure that the most skilled people are doing nothing but engaging customers. Sellers should be selling. Product knowledge people should be delivering their knowledge. They've just got to learn a process that is quick and easy to do. And I think also because the business hasn't really planned what it's going to do, where it's going to do it. Now, in bigger companies, they will make decisions that when it comes to Christmas or when it comes to a peak event, we're going to have a spruiker on, we're going to have some activities on this floor, in that category, in that department, we're going to be running special competitions, we're going to be doing a lot of things. Now, all of that takes planning, and I believe very strongly that the lack of planning about how to handle the various categories in the pharmacy when we're busiest is a major cause for the problem. Equally, I think that the store is unproductive, and I think that is because we've lost sometimes the balance between the term stack it high and watch it fly. You know, our Christmas goods, our goods have got to have high impact, have got to be visible, to being overbearing, too many, so that what the customer meets is a wall of stock, difficulty in getting through aisles, excuse me, difficulty getting through aisles, through dump bins, through clutter, and it's not mess, but it is clutter, it is difficult, they're too narrow to walk through. And then when we get to the shelves, the staff are at behind the counter. The stock on the shelves has no information on it except for price tickets and barcodes. So there is no opportunity for a customer really to buy a total solution, more than one thing, and they have to absolutely know what they want and be able to find it. If you go, for example, to a supermarket's cheese counter, or if you go to a liquor store, you'll have tastings, you'll have special events. I noticed that in a craft beer section that has just been presented. They've got on the category itself the difference between lagers, ales, pilseners and so on, so that the customer at least has some guidelines. But what I would like to see is that at least in your hero, signature, most important categories, there is somebody there all the time, but particularly when you're busiest. So that's a very important point, because this is when the business is going to thrive. Recently, in a Retail Mastery program, our first one that we ran, we were able to demonstrate that people, if we compared their average sale, for example, against JR average sale, they were underdone against the mean by something like $600,000 a year, and if they went to the higher average or the best practice, by up to $2 million. So the great news about that is there is a huge opportunity to still increase the business significantly, but we've got to start thinking differently and doing things differently, because when the customers are there, when holiday trading times are there, ladies and gentlemen, it is showtime. And when it's showtime, as they say in the theatre, you've got to go and break a leg. Of course, I hate that saying, because I sort of have these visions of people walking around in plaster casts. But it is showtime. So what do we do about it? We've got to scream out our strengths. People know it's there. They want to buy. They're ready to buy. What are we going to do? So let's begin by looking at these opportunities for selling health this holiday season. Many times I'm asked the question about brands. I'm sure you will know that. Should I be in this brand? Should I be in that brand? Should I be in the other brand? And there is no question about it that brands do provide absolutely enormous value and support that simply is not available in a single business. You've got operations, you've got buying, you've got loyalty schemes, you've got marketing, you've got regional managers, but they don't run your business. They can try as best they can to drive traffic into the business by providing you with the tools, but it's really you that need to maximize that, and this is about you. So not everything that is going to be done by you would be agreed to by the brand. That doesn't mean they would disagree. By that I mean they so busy doing what they have to do to drive traffic to the group of member stores that you have to run this business. So these are some ideas for you. We've got to tip the scales. We've got too few that I'm seeing who really go to the effort and the energy of doing what I'm about to suggest. So there's both a blaming of the brand and a perceived failure of the brand, and I don't believe that that's correct. And I think a lot of the recommendations I'm going to be making to you, the brand would be only too happy with, the manufacturers would be only too happy with, as ways of ensuring that your store is more relevant, more interesting, sells more, and you're maximizing the opportunity. Now, one point I want to make is that in the celebratory period, in the holiday trading period, normally I would carry through an activity for about 4 weeks. In this case, I think that because customers are coming in so often, you should be running 1 week cycles. All the best retailers I know gear up for setting targets weekly, follow up daily, follow up 2 hourly if need be. It's showtime, and they want to know, get the feedback every time. So the first thing you've got to do, and we're probably too late now for this period, but certainly we're not too late if you want to make it New Year, if you want to make it the 31st of January, you want to make it Goblin's Day, whatever day you want to do it. So the first thing you've got to do as part of your planning is determine which categories are we going to trumpet? Which are our heroes and signature categories? I deal with that an awful lot in the Retail Mastery series, but first you make that decision. Then you've got to be sure, point 2, is that you've allocated space so that the initiatives you do come up with, whether they're in the store or whether they're at the dispensary, are available so customers can buy easily, meet there, get a buzz there. In the supermarket we do a tasting there. In your case it could be a demonstration. And then when you've determined the categories, you say, well, what is going to be easy to buy? And this is not when we're really talking about full solutions, but what are the 2 or 3 easiest to buy products or bundles that people need, and how can we let them know what they are? And I've been known for years to be doing tickets, bits of information. I'm an information phobic, if you like. I love stores like Lush. I love, every time I used to love the chocolate box, which would talk about its chocolate nougat is just melting in your mouth. When you taste me, you will be able to taste how delicious it is. Dear old Rose Adler, who's passed on now, taught me all about informative little shelf talkers. And you've got to set these targets, not once a month, but every day. Everybody's got to be involved. The measurements of these KPIs have got to happen every day, and we want to celebrate performance at the end of the week with the weekly champion in the category. So I'm calling this a 7-week countdown. It could have been 5 weeks, it could have been 16 weeks, and in this case it probably should have been 16 weeks because we're starting with a travel one. But let's talk about the purpose of the countdown. The word is chosen deliberately. It's not original. I apologize for that, but it's deliberately a word that is chosen to indicate this is the best. Wait for it. It's coming. Whether it be the music. I've just been seeing Molly Meldrum's countdown on the ABC. The purpose of countdown is to drive in-store excitement, activity and performance prior to the key close-off dates like Christmas, etc., which we've discussed. And the countdown elements are always, in my case, threefold. One is the invitation to participate to the customer. Now, in this case, your brand does an awful lot of that for you, whether it be by ads, by catalogues, by recommended emails. We need to ensure that you've got the promotional activity, though, the windows and the staffing saying this is the place you heard about, you've come to the right place. I always focus on what will customers see. So we've got these themes, and I'm hoping these themes will spark your creative juices. So we've got theme headers, staff badges, and we've got a big surprise for you at the end of this regarding the theme headers and staff badges and the bullet point advice tickets. And then what do customers hear? We've got less than 30-second pre-planned and pre-rehearsed themed scripts. And that's the only way you can work in peak period is you determine what you're going to say, you become very conversational in saying it, and you literally are inviting the customer to participate. It's not the typical question and answer. I'm waiting for this to turn. There it does. So the countdown, sorry about that. The countdown is in 7 series. The first is going overseas. So that's probably should have been 16 weeks, particularly for our Queensland pharmacies who are able now to vaccinate. But that doesn't mean you can't do it, and you shouldn't do it very often because they go overseas all year, not at Christmas. They may go skiing. Week 6 is fit and trim. Week 5 is once bitten. Week 4 is protection. Week 3 is supplied by a pharmacist. A colleague of mine is, I was going to call it gastro, said, no, why don't you call it glutton time? I said, good, I will. Week 2 is playtime. Now, that is a little bit controversial. One of the pharmacies I'm doing a bit of work with is not far from a university and also not far from the gay centre of town. So playtime is a very important part of the repertoire. But obviously it's up to you to either choose these topics, find other ones, but we've worked to these ones, and then of course last minute. So let's go into overseas travellers. Now, I need to tell you that I will be showing you all the elements in this first one of what you should do, and I'll show you a number of tickets in the second one. I will read a few of them, but we've got literally 46 or 50 options to choose from. So these were just ones that were easy to buy. So here is the merchandise we've selected. We've selected a pain rub for sore feet. We've selected sanitizers because you can't go anywhere, according to one of my favourite pharmacists, without a sanitizer. That you're going to sneeze. Don't forget your antihistamines, your nasal spray and eye drops. Notice 3 products that have been defined there. And also, if you're going overseas and you've been trying to watch your weight, there's the potential for taking some meal replacements. Now, here is the window. And this is our recommendation, going overseas, 4 key health risks. So obviously not the ones you saw on the tickets, but there would be things like bites and stings, deep vein thrombosis, obviously the gastro diarrhea. Well, I nearly was going to put some Imodium with jingle bells around it, but we thought that wasn't a good idea. But the real opportunity is what you see black on white, which is ask us to prepare your travel health kit. Now, customers don't know what they don't know. You're the specialist. So that allows you to be able, and you can pre-plan this and pre-prepare this, but the travel health kit may be different if you're going to Europe in the winter or if you're going to Bali in the summer. So it allows you an opportunity to pack together a whole lot of useful items that are particularly focused around that. Now, where do you put them? This is a dispensary and a health promotion needs a header. There's one opportunity for a header. That is a tower gondola between the in and out counters. We've got these tickets at the top, and we've got the product vertically stacked below it. That's one option. You can position it immediately adjacent to the out counter, but it's critical that a pharmacist has to have access, and it's not necessary that the customer is coming in for a script relating to travel or vaccination. It is just to stimulate an impulse purchase for that time of the year, and that's a very important difference between what I'm saying to you now and specifically targeted condition initiatives that I normally would talk about. So this is immediately adjacent, easy to access and pick up and recommend, or this could be an end, or adjacent. It could be behind the dispensary counter, but if it is behind the dispensary counter, you've got to be sure that the eye level is such that people can read the very bottom one and are exposed to it. Or it could be binned in the front. That's not this and that, it's this or that. Now, if you're going to use binning, it will only, I don't like merchandising even though I absolutely believe the merchandising can drive 60% of sales in stores, I don't really like it in health areas to do its own work. So if you're going to do binning very close to the dispensary, please be sure that a pharmacist or a pharmacist student in their Ben Casey gear is there and able to talk to it. Also, there is an enormous opportunity for hints and tips. I remember many years ago seeing a design for one of the pharmacy banners where they had an allocated area for events and for hints and for tips, and I loved it. Unfortunately, it was never kept up to date and was soon covered by stock. I wish it was back. But a reminder, an area which reminds them about their vaccinations, check with us now. And this second tip is one that I think is very important. If we remind ourselves that the purpose of retail is to get as many customers as we can, revisiting more often, using all parts of the store and spending more and becoming passionate advocates, then that means that we've got to do things to make them happen. And in this case, I didn't know this pharmacy did vaccinations. I do now. And this hint here on the right tells us that the symptoms don't show, especially with all this fuss about Ebola, but whatever it is, symptoms often won't show for 2 or 3 weeks. So you can quite easily establish amongst the pharmacists a symptom checker, be it fever, runs, pains, joints, whatever it is. And you can have them pop in a week or two. If you can make an appointment, that would be fantastic. And then to support everything else we've seen, I'm a great believer in every time a customer sees a skilled person, they see that person with a badge. Now, I don't want the cashier to wear this going overseas badge because I'm not sure the cashier can answer questions. But I definitely want the pharmacists, the trainee pharmacists, the skilled people who work in the health area to have that with you. And here is the script, which takes 20 seconds. We're talking about, by the way, I might have come in for next year. We're talking about travel this week. We've got a countdown going on. You can say to your customer, we've isolated a few must-haves. So if you or anybody else is going, you need to stock up. There are more items than we've identified. Most important, though, is to take your antibiotics with you. One of the best things I've ever read, it's not on the script, in a travel book was this quote that hospitals overseas can be worse than the condition itself. Now, I wouldn't put that on the script, but certainly somebody could say that. Normal medicine, go with you, and a letter from the doctor, especially if you're going through customs. So that gives you a whole sense of the importance of where you put it, in the category, the importance of wearing badges, the importance of simple windows. You don't really want a lot of froth and bubble. You want simple, clear, customer-focused messages. The next one I think is a good one. It's called Fit and Trim. And at this time of the year, everybody I know is worried about New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, not fitting in. I put on weight. Next year I'm going to go into weight, but what am I going to do? Do I have to go and buy a new outfit? This becomes a really good opportunity to get them to on a quite heavy routine of shakes to allow them to get leaner quicker, to remind them about taking fibre so that they don't become constipated, to have the energy smoothie. I think that those new smoothies that have come out are fantastic opportunities to align not only in a superfoods category but also within the weight category. So there is a major example of how you can do it, and you can do it several times, or the need to boost calcium and multivitamin levels, and anything else. We've got several others as well. unless you've got arthritis, take a pedometer and start doing some walking, etc. So we've got some others. This is the window. I want to shed a few kilos quickly. Now, this is our not quite so subtle way of saying we can help you take some off now, but we also can help you with keeping it off. Most brands have got their weight program, and this becomes a very good time prior to the New Year resolution to say to them, don't forget about us. So that's very important. Again, I don't want the cashier to be wearing this badge. I do want the weight specialists, the people who are coherent in that area to be doing that. And there we have our little script, and we've done it in our own way. This week we're focusing on getting fitter and trimmer. And we know that I'm changing the words, I'm letting you read them, but I'm changing them as I speak to show you how easy it is to do. We all know that you can't live on 3 shakes a day, and many people can't on 2 shakes a day. And maybe if it's just a little, you can do that 2 shakes on 2 days of the week and normal eating on, or you can do more. Or if you've got to take a shake with you, you take a bottle of water. Definitely don't drink it from the tap. Drink a bit out, throw your shake in, mix it up and drink it dead easy. So there are lots of things you can do. I haven't gone through where you position them adjacent because this will be up for recording for a while and you'll be able to see it again. And now these are deliberately blank. The Once Bitten is deliberately blank. The tickets are around protection clothes, allergic, taking a sting and bite kit, soothing stings, rubbing stuff insect repellents, using a cold pack and a soothing cream. Have you remembered your arnica? So there are a whole lot of recommendations there. The tip in this one are severe reactions to bites do need a doctor. Symptoms include rash, swelling, breathing difficulty, vomiting. I personally am allergic to bee stings. I learned that the hard way on a golf course not very long ago. So it's something that I think every pharmacy should have up there as a hint. And here again, this is the window treatment. And it's a small window, but it's strong and it shouldn't be cluttered out by all sorts of messages. Let us make up a bite and sting kit for you. This becomes particularly important in the summer months, which we're in Australia now. It becomes particularly important if people are going bushwalking, they're going to hot climates, anywhere, camping, whatever they're doing. If they live on farms, let us make a bite and sting kit for you. Avoid stings and bites, and that, of course, going back to that, the kit, it allows you to, again, not be predictable, to be differentiated, and to be able to package stuff that people really need and can really use. And here, of course, is the badge, again, not worn by the cashier or the person necessarily in the cosmetics area, but worn by the people who will understand it. And our script. With bushwalking, we're focusing on getting protection. Now, you would focus, I've obviously focused on a soothing cream, an insect repellent, severely allergic, or you can simply say we've isolated a few things, but obviously we've got a lot more that you can use. Protection is around sun and wind, and obviously for those people who are going skiing in the northern climes over the Christmas months, they too need to protect themselves. So one of the hints is about an anti-inflammatory, that sunburn is like an inflammation of the skin, and consider anti-inflammatory diets as well as tomato paste, vitamin D, vitamin D3, vitamin C, coconut oil, fermented cod liver oil, the depletion of vitamin D, don't dry out your skin. If your skin is flaky, maximum protection sunscreen, obviously, and watch your lips. That's one of my favourite ones, watch your lips. And I like that because it's sort of a hint of something more, watch your lips. So the window is protect properly against sun and wind. And here we were a really serious message. You know, what you shouldn't be happy about is people going in and buying their 50 plus and walking out. You should really be sure that your people are getting a regimen and knowing how to use it for protection. And those of you, and congratulations to several brands that run skin checks, congratulations to you. What an outstanding initiative. This is a very good time for you to give them a kit and make a time to have a look at their skin and then recommend to the doctor if that's what you're doing. And that's one of the things that brands do, is that they have these initiatives and they're very impressive providing they're implemented at store level. And that's the key point. It's not worthwhile getting sun and wind, and that's the badge. Freckles can kill. Now that comes directly out of, I took a bit of liberty with ChemMart. Thank you, ChemMart, and I hope you don't mind. Have a skin check, and maybe monthly, 6 monthly, notice a new freckle. See the doctor, worried about bees, use light coloured clothing. Now that could easily have gone into the once bitten area. Again, we've got an important message about you must be, whatever you're doing, and I might have come in for my Nexium script. So it's a piece of conversation instead of saying, how are you, how are the kids, how's the dog, where are you going? Now don't forget, if you're spending any time in the sun or the wind, please be protected. We're alarmed by the melanoma rate, so we've got a particular area that's set aside, and I'm making again, there's up there 4 things that we think you must do. Go and speak to Jane down there. Glutton time is obviously, this is the one that could have had the Imodium with jingle bells around it, but it's wash, wash, wash and wash again. The sanitizers, good gut health. Now there are now brands that you don't have to refrigerate for probiotics, which become a very easy sell for this time when you're going away and you don't have the liberty of keeping your probiotics in a fridge. And of course, the importance of probiotics and gut health is really only mentioned for antibiotics, but it should be used, I'm sure, all the time. Watch the runs, take diarrhea relief, and if it's still there, see a GP after 24 hours, and you can again make up the kit for them. Rehydration, bloat and pain, feeling seedy, good old Barocca, have a smoothie instead. So don't eat all the time, have a smoothie instead, and you don't need a fag. One of the problems about going out from an old experienced ex-smoker is that the more they drink, the more they're likely to smoke. So this is a very good opportunity to sell some nicotine replacement therapy to put under the tongue and just remind them to have a soda water, have a juice, have a tonic, and say it's a vodka tonic instead. And then we get to the window, which is more traditional. So it's not a glutton, it's a gastro on holiday. Know how to treat it. Let us make up your kit. Again, avoid gastro. Again, not the cashier wearing. That's a very important point. We all eat and drink too much. We've selected our most popular request. So it's not necessarily something that is the absolute solution, but it is something that is really popular. And if you're going anywhere, be careful. There could be careful about market stores, especially in hot climates, and potentially contaminated food and water. And finally, there's playtime. It boggles the imagination, I suppose, but feeling seedy, you don't need a fag, have a smoothie, keep up your immunity, and who knows. I have to admit that many years ago for a pharmacy in Oxford Street, Paddington, 25, we did a Mardi Gras kit, so I will leave it to you to imagine what was in the Mardi Gras kit. I'm not calling it that sort of, but maybe depending on your location and your inclination to have an area like that, that's up to you. Let us do it. And again, depending on where you are and how much courage you have, this is another one you can use. It's our second last week, time for pick-me-ups as well as caution and moderation. This is when our immunity needs to be at our best. I don't think I'd put money on everybody doing this, but if you do, please let me know. I'd be so excited. And finally, it's the last minute. You've got your must-have holiday pack, and you would select anything you like, sneezing and wheezing, gastro, arnica, the gut health. There are a whole lot of opportunities for you. Last minute must have. So we're just reminding them all the time to buy. And this is our health. Let us make up an all-purpose. So it's a bit of this and a bit of that. I'm just staying at home. Oh, you don't want to be bogged down in the party racing to find a pharmacy. Last minute needs, be prepared. Good old Girls Guide motto. Many pharmacies, all of them will be open over the holidays, but it's still better to be prepared, have a good time. So as we come to the end of this first section, there are so many, I say this with my heart a little in my mouth, there are so many dump bins around over holiday periods. And I've made the point earlier that you've really got to be careful of clutter and contamination. So if it's health, keep it health. Don't have it health next to toilet paper, although that could be appropriate in the gastro week, in the glutton week, but normally, you know what I mean, don't have that sitting next to necessarily a gift pack. So you need the space to shop and never leave all the recommendations. So what have we said? We've said determine how long your countdown period will be. Determine the category that you're going to be focused on. I hope, because of what I showed you up front, that you will be using health as a major point. Decide what you're going to say. All of you talk about it, say what is the shortest thing we can say. By the way, don't forget. Now remember, it doesn't need to relate to the script they've come in for. Discuss it among yourselves, practice it, and then you set targets for each product. And you remember at the beginning I said to you, choose very easy to sell and easy to buy products. Set target amount of mentions. Of my mentions, you know that you're going to have 500 customers come into the dispensary in a day. Are you going to mention something about this week, and all of you are mentioning the same week, which is holiday or glutton or whatever? Are we going to mention it to 10 of them, to 20 of the 500, to 50? How many is reasonable? Don't make it too bullish. Make it manageable, but make it fun. So you set the target mentions per person. They will tell you. If I said to you, you know, Jane, that you will personally see about 150 customers with scripts in the day, how many do you think you could mention this to? So she'll say 100, all of them. So no, let's not be too bullish. So she'll say 100, and you say, I think that's still too bullish. So let her come up with 5 or 6 or 3. It doesn't matter. It's still going to make an enormous difference to sales in the retail area, and also to the excitement and the experience that the customers are having. Definitely measure, and I will go later to the way of measuring, and reward your weekly countdown winners across the store, your health area, in your cosmetics area, in your fragrance area, wherever you've got an event, wherever you're focused, and that will get everybody involved. Now, the big news is that we're running, and Peter will talk about it at the end of the session, another Retail Mastery series starting at the end of January, going over online 3 weeks. And for any existing Mastery members or Mastery members that come on, we will give you all these tickets at no cost. They won't be available otherwise to anybody who's not a Retail